Alrighty, welcome to Romera Records Virtual Cast. Today we have on Meirav. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So yeah, I was reading your. I found you on Podmatch, and I was
Yeah.
reading through your bio and everything, and you do some pretty different stuff. Noticeably the comedy, and then you said you do like some theater and stuff like that. So, if you would just, I guess, just give the audience, I guess, a synopsis of the stuff that you do, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah, I do basically everything theater. I do some screen stuff too, but mainly theater. So I'm an actor, performer, writer, director, producer. I started out as an actor, but kind of out of necessity, I became everything else. Yeah, that's basically what I do. Within that, I really love improvisation, and then I always lean toward comedy with anything that I do, whether it's scripted or improvised. I love comedy, so yeah, that's kind of like that's my thing.
Where do you live?
I'm living now in Atlanta, Georgia.
You're in Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah.
So the last guy I had on, actually, he was big into comedy and improv, and he was from the Netherlands. And
Yeah.
I was like, curious on how that is in the Netherlands, because I've heard this thing that certain areas their comedy is just completely different
Oh
in
yeah.
like
Yeah.
America compared to other places. So how do you
Yeah.
feel the scene is in Atlanta?
Well, I actually, it's funny that you should say that because I actually don't know since I grew up here and I'm here again, but the majority, many years I've lived in Israel actually, and all my most of my professional years were there. So yeah, I've done improv there as well, and, and it's yes because it's there it's mainly language based, then it really depends on the language and the culture of the language also, if that's kind of understandable, because it's every language and culture has their own kind of thing. So and it doesn't necessarily carry across. So like something that you could do in English that is hilarious may not be the same level of funny somewhere else. And also within English, so like American English versus British English and Australian English, even within that is different. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and as you were talking about just cultural differences, like, making jokes about some chick in her pants, and you're talking about, somebody in the Middle East where their religion is, a woman being fully covered and not wearing pants. So, like, jokes like that don't land.
And not the same. And also, it's just like they're also very like little nuances. Some comedy and certain jokes, they're very nuanced and witty, and you can't have that wit carry across when you translate. And sometimes if you're watching something foreign, even though you may understand the language, you may not get all the levels of the comedy within that joke, just because you have to get everything. So yeah, it's not like watching something with subtitles. It's not just that.
Yeah, I mean, even how people act,
Yeah.
people's demeanor, and
Yeah. Body language and all that.
yeah, all those things are, well, they play a big factor, and you have to really, like, one thing that I've learned about music or comedy, anything where you're entertaining people, you got to know the audience. If you don't know the audience, you messed up.
Yes. Yes. Although I have to say that music to me is one of the I mean, easier to carry across. I think music is really, I mean, I love it. I love how it can instantly connect people that don't know the same language, or the same culture. Music is something else. It's like a whole new level of language. So that's a different kind of art in its own. But yeah, definitely when you're talking about comedy, it's an art within itself. I think a lot of people immediately when they think of comedy, they think of stand-up comedy, and or just random jokes. But even that, it's really not as easy as it looks. It's not literally some person grabbing a mic, getting on stage and shooting out jokes that they just thought of. It's really very well crafted. It's quite an art form and a skill that you have to have.
So when you are doing improv, does that feel more comfortable than it does, like a stand up where you have to write stuff and remember? Does it just feel
Yeah.
better?
So, right. So for me, I mean, I haven't actually tried stand up with comedy. I mean, I do like, proper like scripted plays and scripts and whatnot. But improv compared to that, it's a different type of thing. And I love it. I mean, even if I'm doing scripted stuff and even in the stuff that I have written, I always left room for improvisation just because I think that it's a shame not to. There's so many things that can happen in the moment. And if you're just so rigid to say, no, we have to stick to the original words, it's a shame because you miss out on these other cool things that come up. I mean, improvised stuff is not just thinking of a funny joke. It's going along with whatever's happening and things come up. It's just like if you ever see, like behind the scenes or blooper stuff from movies that you liked and they talk about making the movies, and so sometimes when they're doing a take they would have there's some actors that can provide like they do different takes for different reasons, but sometimes they do many takes, and they can have like 5 to 10 takes and each take is different because they used like a different word or a different reaction which led to another different reaction from the other actor. It's really really cool. So I love that whole it's really an art form. So yeah, I love that.
Is there something that you feel like makes improv better? As you were just explaining, that I guess difference in the different ways that you can react and stuff like that. But do you feel like the improv in general is just a better art form? I know there's different ways that you can, skin a cat when it comes to what is better, but
Yeah.
do you just feel like that it's better because of something?
No, I mean, I think it's each genre has its own pros and cons. I guess you could look at it, or things that someone could like or connect with more than others. It's kind of, I guess, a matter of taste. There's some people, by the way, that like proper improv theater. That there's some people that hate it, like they can't stand it. They don't think it's funny. They don't think it's witty. They don't, they don't love it. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Just like theater, not everyone loves going to theater, or not everyone loves stand up, not everyone loves, like action movies. It's the same thing. So it's, different genres, like different tastes. But um, I do really believe that improv has a lot that there's a lot to offer for people in general to even utilize in real life. Like I think, and a lot of people have talked about this before, but I really do believe that improv is like you can use it for life. The whole basic concepts of improv is a concept called yes and, which basically means that, well, when you're on stage, that whatever is presented to you, you have to go along with it. So if the other actor says that he's, holding a glass of water in his hand, you have to go along with that he's holding a glass of water in his hand. Otherwise, the scene dies and you go nowhere and it's very awkward and the audience is bored and whatever. So the whole concept of going along with what is presented to you in order to move the scene forward is, and then you have the and, which is your contribution. Like not only agree that there's a glass of water, but also add, oh yeah, you know what, we should have our picnic right now because you got this great, like whatever it is, so that you can make the scene move forward. And suddenly you have a picnic, and suddenly you're in the park, and suddenly there's like a whole scene here. So the same thing goes with life. Like when you're presented with opportunities, if you're open to them and you accept them and maybe add on to that or see how you can add on to that, the greatest things can happen. So I really, there's a lot of improv that you can utilize even for real life, even if you're not an actor or, a theater person. So I really love all of it.
Yeah, and I think stuff like that. Did you ever watch Who's Line?
Yeah,
Who's Line
yeah.
Is It Anyway? Yeah, I
Yep.
mean that. I think that's what made that show so great was the
Yeah.
fact that we were watching them come up with the stuff right in front of us, and
Yes.
it wasn't a bunch of scripted information. We got to experience it in real time, and it really makes you appreciate the mindset of a person who's able to do that because as you said, it's relatable to real life. And if
Yeah.
you like if you put yourself in that situation, like, man, I would have never thought of that. And so you get to appreciate and
Yeah.
live with the comedian in that moment.
Yeah, and it's great. And that, that particular format is called short form improv. It's just like short little scenes or games or whatever they like to call. And it's really, I mean, like you said, you really get to appreciate kind of the genius of, these people that are there. And there were some episodes in that show, in the original British version, also in the American version, where they had like guest stars appear, and that's really fun to see, because then you're like, you see them, oh, wow, you really see kind of what they can do in the moment and not just the scripted stuff that you're used to seeing. Some of them have also improv background, but yeah, it's very impressive.
I love when they would bring the crowd into it because
Yeah,
because that was always awesome. Just getting somebody who literally knows nothing about comedy.
right,
I mean,
right.
other than just watching it, and then having to see them just perform in front of other people. It was great.
Yeah, and it's kind of like getting in on the magic trick. You kind of see like what's happening and how it's happening, and then enjoying the product. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like there are other shows out there that are similar to Who's Line that have been able to capitalize on this improv type comedy?
Um, I think that there are many shows and movies that we know and love that we don't realize that much of it was improvised, and much of it was, if it was scripted, then the director or the writer or the people involved in the production had that opportunity. They kind of kept it open to see, what worked, or if something happened that wasn't planned and they got it on film, or they wanted to include it in the stage version. It's and they kept it, and I think it's much more than we realize. But to have just proper unscripted, there aren't many. There are a few. There's one rather new one on Netflix that's in a long format, which means they're doing an entire like 45 to 50-minute show improvised, like one storyline. And it's amazing. It's really amazing. And it's two guys and they're playing all the characters and they keep like, they build this whole storyline out of like one suggestion from the audience. It's really, really amazing.
That's crazy. What do you know the name of it?
Yes. Hold on. It escaped me for now, but I will tell you. It's middle. I think Middleton and Schwartz,
Hmm.
something like that, or Schwartz and Middleton, something like that.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to
Um,
check it out.
you'll check it out. It's really. I mean, I'm just shamelessly plugging them because it's really impressive. It's really, really good to see, and it's like a lot of people that have seen live in person long form, which happens. I mean, you can go and catch it like in theater, but to see that it got finally attention like on screen and you can see that's great. There was also once a TV show. It didn't do well, but it was on. I forgot what it was. It was quite a few years ago, where it was a whole unscripted kind of sitcom in a way, kind of like a sketch show sitcom, where they had the same cast, and each time they would play different characters according to whatever it was, and it was all unscripted, and it was great. So every time that happens, I love watching it. And to me, I'm like, wow, I hope this catches on, because it's really, really, it's a lot of fun to watch and see how they're working the magic, so to speak.
Something that's I think it could be kind of improv is just like the live TV shows. Those are mind blowing to me because
Yeah,
like you can't just mess up. Like
yeah,
it's in front of a live audience. So
yeah.
I think those are
That
impressive.
That's for sure. Live TV is basically just like a live, theatrical production. Of course, this time it's different repercussions because you have a much bigger audience. And so I guess in a way it's kind of like, different pressure, but um, definitely that's why I love live theater, because even though it's not necessarily improvised and it's mostly scripted, It's a live show. You can literally watch this show every night, and it will probably be a little bit different every night because maybe someone tripped when they entered the stage, or maybe someone messed up their line or forgot or said something they weren't supposed to, or something. There's always, when something's happening live, you can't cut and edit. And and that improvisational skill is so important, there. So it's really fun to see how you're able to kind of use that. And a lot of actors use it purposefully so that they can kind of keep the energy up, and because when you're doing the same show over and over and over, you have to kind of do something to make it kind of alive again. So a lot of people do that as well. But yeah, it's very, very cool to see.
I have a friend that I used to train. Her name is Meredith, and she she did shows on cruise ships, and I was like, "How is that?" And she was like, "Ah, I mean, it's great, but the best part's being able to travel. Other than that, I'm doing the same show like over and
Right.
over." I was like, "That's a pretty wild thing," but I guess if you're able to, if you love doing that and that's your way of perfecting your craft, then yeah, you get to do a show like over and over again, and you
Yeah.
get to, I guess, think about it differently, and you realize, I've got a different audience. These are different people. The other people got off the ship. These are new people, and now I get to have something fresh.
Yeah, and it's definitely that. I mean, it can. I mean, I never really looked at it that way. That it's kind of a cycle, but it's something that you have to kind of keep fresh, because again, the audience is not the same. I mean, yeah, you could potentially have, let's say, your family or friends like come over and over, but essentially the entire audience is never the same, and it's something new for them each time. Like it's for them, it's brand new. So you have to make sure that it's that same magical moment each time. And it's actually a nice challenge for yourself professionally to see how can you do that. How can you find that magic moment anew each time. And it's great. It's a great way to kind of challenge yourself professionally.
Yeah, you got to think of it as like getting engaged to the crowd, right? Like,
Yep, each and every time. And will they say yes? It's like,
yeah, it could be extremely, I guess, stressful and mentally, I guess, bog you down. But props to the people who are able to do it. I
yeah.
think anything live, people who do anything live, that could be very stressful. But if you're able to do it, then that to me that just shows how professional you can be and how on top of your game you are, because
Yeah.
it's different to do something in a controlled environment where you could be like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, I had to sneeze. Like, let's redo, like, that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, totally. And it's also another element in the whole performance, because especially for theater, when you're doing, essentially that you're performing for someone. So let's say like during rehearsals or the whole process, you don't have that element yet, and then once the show starts like for real and you have an audience, it's this whole other vibe. I mean, you really feel it. It's very hard to explain, but having the audience there is like, you feel the reaction, whether it's good or bad, you feel it. And it's just like, I would imagine, I'm not an athlete, but I would imagine it's just like, when people are playing sports, and they're practicing and there's no one there when they're practicing except for coaches or whatever. When it's game night, like, it's just the whole energy is wow. And that's why I think also I'm always thinking of the whole thing, like with sports teams, they have the home games and the away games. And I'm always thinking, wow, that's like an extra challenge, because like if you're playing like not in your home court, oh my God, it's like the energy's there, but it could be completely against you in a way. It's like, so that whole thing, it's this thing you can actually feel and you can't explain it. And that's, wow.
yeah, I mean, the ability for athletes to come out on top of whatever situation they're going through it's just as impressive as people who are
Yeah.
doing theater, because you're both in an environment where people have come to watch you
Right.
do what you do and
Right.
do it well and not screw up.
Right. right, and entertain them on
Yeah.
top of it. Like they're just sitting there, like I want to be entertained. I want,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, it's all in all, it's a great vibe. Like I mean, in my opinion, obviously not everyone would want to do that, but yeah, I love it.
So, you mentioned, doing live theater. What is some things that you have done in live theater? Are you doing like Broadway type shows, like Lion King, that type of stuff, or is it just some director came up with a script and you perform that?
So when I started out, that's what I did. I would go to, productions that needed actors, whether it was on stage or screen. I'd go to auditions and do the whole process. But at the beginning, like right there, I just noticed, okay, this is nice. And I get that this is like how things work, but I don't want to wait around for these opportunities. And I don't want to be dependent on whatever it is they're grading me on, or like if they need me or if they needed someone else, or I don't know. So I started to create kind of my own opportunities, and that's how I got into writing and directing and producing. And I essentially produced my own shows that I also performed in, and those ranged from anything. I did a lot of children's theater, and I did lots of like comedy and music shows, and I had a solo show that I'm doing also. So it's different. So I've had something that was kind of like a musical Broadway production. I've done that, which was a lot of fun. A lot of fun performing, a lot of stress producing, because the bigger the production, the more complex it is, and the more crazy it can get. But yeah, and I've done all kinds of different productions. And I don't know if it ended up being on purpose, but I like that I did that because it gave me kind of different experiences and different perspectives on stuff. So
Which one do you enjoy more? Just like a fresh new script of a storyline, or something that you already know, as I mentioned, like a Lion King or a
both. I mean, I love, oh, you mean like whether it's a known script or original?
yeah. Which one seems more interesting to you?
I would probably have to say original work, and all the stuff that I've done was original stuff. I never did like an adaptation of Cinderella or an adaptation of a known work, only because I just thought I wanted different. I mean, I want to really challenge myself to do something like fresh and be the first to do it, and not like an adaptation, because especially at the beginning when I was starting out, I started like bootstrapping everything. I mean, before bootstrap, like socks. I don't even know like what's under bootstrapping. That's how I started. It was really harsh. So I knew that I couldn't produce something that was going to be at the caliber of what I've already seen and what could be and what I could imagine. So I said, okay, wait, let's start with something else that I can kind of work with that and make that something bigger than it was, which was nothing 2 minutes ago. So, I kind of worked in a different way to make it, kind of a creative product.
Well, you mentioned you do writing and producing and directing. Is that something that came easy to you because you enjoy the whole concept, or did you feel like it took a lot more work to do either the producing or writing? What seems like put it all together for you?
So again, it all came together because I had to get it done.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously the performance to this day I love the most. Performing is what I love the most. Um, I learned a lot about directing. First of all, I was lucky enough to have kind of mentors and other people that I could work with, that I saw how to do what I needed to do. And also I was an actor, so I also knew kind of what those needs were in a way. And I also learned along the way. I also made mistakes along the way and learned, and that was also like learning as I go. So I kind of had to get to where I needed to get. So I did it. And producing also, it was, I had to get it done. I had to book the show and get the show and get everyone together and coordinate and do whatever needed to get done. So I did it. But yeah, at the heart of it, it's so that I could perform, and that's my love. I love that the most.
Okay, so you said performance is your
Yeah,
favorite.
yeah.
And to me, I've grown to realize that. So I do music, but I really like putting things together more than I like actually doing the thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love, so right now I'm in the middle of putting together two albums, and
Wow.
I'm not even on the albums. I'm just like getting the instrumentals together and getting all the artists together, and then putting the whole thing together. And the reason why I want to do that is because, as I said, that's something that I think I enjoy more. And is it more stressful? Way more stressful, because
Yes.
I have to depend on the people to
Yeah.
do a good job. And
Yep.
I know I'm going to do a good job, but now I'm having to depend on the people to do a good
Right.
job. So, um, being able to um, actually perform, like I feel like that's got to be a good feeling, but also the production is could be just as good.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's it's you kind of also get to when you're in a certain field. I think it's actually cool that you can try out the different sort of roles, because it gives you perspective on everything else, and especially on the role that you do the most or want to do the most or love the most, whatever. It gives you a different kind of perspective and appreciation even. And it's always good to see things from a different angle and try things out. So it's good that, like you said, you're now doing something that you love doing, and you may have not thought to do that if you didn't try it, if you didn't want to do it. So
And speaking of that, I think everybody who does something like performing should try like directing and producing and going from the top down and then the from the bottom up, because
yeah.
those types of things help you understand what's really going on. And like you said,
Yep.
you already performed, so it helped you direct and produce
Yeah.
because you knew the needs of all
Yeah.
the artists and everything and all the actors. So yeah, those things definitely help. It's something that makes you better at your craft when you're able to see the big picture, when you can see the start to finish.
Definitely. Definitely. And everything related to, especially performance, at the end of the day, you have to have at least someone be able to see the big picture. Otherwise, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna work out, because the big picture is what the audience is going to eventually deal with. And so you want that to be the best.
So, being in the comedy field, do you enjoy comedy type TV shows and movies more than other things, or
Yes.
yeah, you do? Okay.
Definitely. I would pick a comedy any day over anything else. I mean, I love when it's integrated. Like, I like action comedies as well.
Okay.
Like action movies that have a lot of like wit and humor in them.
What like
I would like
comedies?
them. Like, to me, that's like, comedy. I don't prefer like a big sappy like hard drama. I would probably not choose, because it's like, it's like it draws me in, like it's too down. Like a comedy is like, I love that. I love that it can like pick you up and get you like to escape a little bit, So I love it, even as, being in the audience, I would prefer comedy.
I was listening to a podcast with what's his name? Matthew McConaughey, and he was talking about how somebody was trying to pitch him a role in something, and he was like, I'm not doing another romantic comedy.
Yeah.
And those, sometimes we have those people who they always get the same role.
Right.
They
Yep.
basically have the
Typecast.
same, yeah, yeah, and they basically have the same name.
Yep.
And they
Yeah.
always, I mean, they do well at it. Matthew McConaughey, if you know he's going to be in a romantic comedy, you know he's going to kill it. But
Yeah.
as he was saying in that podcast, he's sick of doing them. So
Right.
maybe
Yeah, I
sometimes
think also, for actors, I get that too. Sometimes if you're like in one type of genre, you want to kind of try out others sometimes. Again, professionally, just to kind of like try things out and experiment and explore your own abilities. And that's totally legit. I'm in my stuff, I do kind of like, different forms, but I just lean the comedy because I do also in like in real life, when I'm in a social setting, I'll often try to see, okay, well, maybe there's a joke here and I'll put in this and whatever, but it's just to each his own, and it's totally fine and legit. But yeah, I get where that's coming from too.
Do people expect comedy from you?
um I don't know. I mean, I'm not like, yeah, in a social setting, I go to comedy, but I'm not necessarily like a funny person. I don't know if I would define myself as a funny person. Like, I don't think my friends say, "Oh, a funny person." I don't know, but I don't know if they expect that.
Mhm.
I would hope not, because that's a lot of pressure walking into a room. It's like, oh my god, I gotta be funny.
See, that's what I always wonder about people who are comedians. It's like, do people always just expect them to be funny all the time? I was like, that would get really annoying.
Yes, I know that there are comedians, when I would watch like some sort of, shows when they would talk, and they would, you would see they're completely like straight guys, like just like, the guy who doesn't say the joke. He's like, he's the guy that's just the straight face, deadpan, just kind of, they're serious people, but they come up with really, really funny jokes, or their delivery is really, really funny, just because as a comedian, they are able to come up with the material and deliver it well. But on a day to day, have coffee with them, they're super serious. They're just like, so yeah.
And I think something about making people aware of what you do is it could be good and bad because of that expectation. Like I was talking to somebody and I was asking, I was like, do people always ask you to tell them a joke when you tell them that you're a comedian? Because that if you avoid telling people what you do, then they don't think about it. That's not something
Right.
they really think about. But
Right.
if you do tell them that, then it kind of puts you on your game, right? Because they're going to be expecting, like, if you say you're a comedian, they're going to be like, oh, this person's going to be funny. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but
Right.
if you never tell them anything and then you have them cracking up the whole time, then they're like, oh my God, you should be a comedian.
Yes. And it's actually funny because a lot of the times you'll have like your extremely funny friend who's just like cracking you up. Like, he walks into a room and makes everyone laugh and whatever. They will never be able to be a stand-up comedian. Like, sometimes, they're like, they can't do it. It's like, it's a different kind of spotlight. It's a different kind of situation. Because again, stand-up comedy is not necessarily someone standing up and just coming up off the top of their head. Like, it's all very well crafted, and the delivery and I mean, that's why, when I first got into it, to like, I delved into stand-up comedy in terms of just learning more about it. Because I'm kind of like a nerd that way. Like, I want to like really know, how does it work? How does it, So when I first did that with stand-up, I was like shocked that these people would say the same jokes at every club they went to. I didn't know that. I literally thought that this was a brand new joke each time. And so then I figured out, okay, there's a reason for that too. That's how they're perfecting their material. They have to see what works, they have to see what doesn't work, which kind of crowd would accept it and which not. Um, and it's just, more to the genius of it. But yeah.
Yeah, I had that realization one time too, because I was like, if somebody's doing all these shows, are they retelling the same jokes? And it's like, yeah, because nobody like, well, somebody's probably going to all their shows, but
Yeah.
more than likely, if they're in like Houston one week and then they're in like New York the next week, probably somebody's not following them that far, but
Right.
there are a few. But yeah, I mean that's how you practice, is you just have
Right.
to go and perform and do that over and over again. And that's something that I feel for people who do live performance, because that's the only way that they get to practice, unless they just,
Yeah.
hey, I'm gonna call up some of my friends and and y'all just come over to my house and I'm gonna just tell you all these jokes, and then when I'm done, we're good.
Totally. And that's another like part of the like level of respect I have for stand up, because you see comedians that sometimes make it big, and with every show that they come out with, they have to make that show, and the only way they can make it is if they practice it. And like they can't go on a US tour or world tour without doing that first. So it's like I love that they still go to like the little clubs and like practice the material and build the material. You see like Kevin Hart and Dave Chappelle and even Jerry Seinfeld when he went back, like all these comedians that are, I mean, they made it, but they go back and they do the work. Like they had, that's the only way they can kind of get, like, I don't know, to where they have a full show, a full set. So yeah.
And speaking of Jerry, his type of comedy is funny in itself because most people don't get it, and I can judge a person based off of what they think is funny. Like like I am. People are always like, "Oh, don't be judgy." I am extremely judgmental, but my judgmental is because I want to know who you are. Like I take the kind of stuff that you laugh at. So if somebody, I'm not huge into what is it called, like adult animation, so like Family Guy or the
Yeah.
Cleveland Show.
Yeah.
Those shows don't really appease to me because I feel like they're trying too hard to be funny the whole time.
Yeah.
But something like Seinfeld is where you either got the joke or you didn't. They're going to keep
Right.
going. But
Right.
like the other shows, it's like Family Guy. It's like, hey, this part's funny. Laugh at this. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
what Jerry does to me is that's more artful to me, is because it's like I'm just gonna be funny, and if you like it, you like it. You don't, you don't. I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah. And the thing about, Seinfeld, I mean, he started off obviously as a stand-up comedian, and still, I think he's still doing a little bit, but the show, his show, which ended up being kind of like the base of all these other formats and TV shows afterwards, because that was kind of very groundbreaking at the time. And so, his show, the whole thing of having it based on nothing, and it was literally his observational comedy in a sitcom form,
Mhm.
which was like very, it was obviously, groundbreaking. And so it's great to see that there are, things that happen, because when it started, it was like, oh my God, what is this? And just knowing that that's going to happen again, like there's going to be another kind of, wow, oh, what is that? That's new. And that's funny. And that, and that's going to change everything. So yeah, I think it's great to see and experience.
Yeah, and do you know who Wale is, the rapper?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know this, but him and Jerry are like really good friends.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you look at Wale's older music, he's
Okay.
got some mixtapes, and he's got, I think it's called the, God, what is it called? Oh, one of his mixtapes is like some of the songs are like the beginning is clips from Seinfeld, and then he talks like the entire song will be about whatever happened in that episode of Seinfeld.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and it's really awesome. And then one of his albums was called The Album About Nothing. And then I think the cover art was just like a bunch of shoes, and because it was kind of like the Seinfeld. And then
Yeah.
and he had Jerry like speaking before some of the songs, and
Very cool.
I was like, man, that's such a great collaboration, because number one,
Yeah.
while I was just a fan of Jerry Seinfeld, and then for him to relate
Yeah.
music, like a lot of people relate to music, and then a lot of people relate to TV shows, and
Right.
the Seinfeld show was so relatable because it was about nothing. It was about
Right.
people's everyday lives,
Yeah.
and that was, brilliant for Wale to take something like Seinfeld, which everybody can relate to, and then make music about it, because more people can relate to that as well. And that
Yeah.
just shows you a wholesome act of art, because you're saying,
Right.
I know people are going to be able to relate to this because they relate to Seinfeld. They're going to love my music, and we can take what people's everyday reactions to, whether it's love or friendships and stuff like that. You can definitely find somebody out there who is going to
Yeah.
appreciate that that concept that you're using.
Yeah, definitely. And there are a lot of uh, the collaborations also kind of show you how great how great both are. Because like you got this one person who's mainly a musician, you got this other person who's mainly a comedian, and the fact that you could take both pieces and kind of combine into a new piece is like, I love that. I love how like things can evolve like that. That's great.
Something that I always thought would be really cool. I'm just guessing it'd be cool. It might not be, but if like musicians opened up for comedians or comedians opened up for musicians, like
So
imagine if you went to like you bought tickets to a Drake concert and then Kevin Hart opens for Drake. Like I thought that would be so cool.
So I actually produced a show kind of like that. Mixed it mixed music performances and comedy, and it was just like that, and it was an awesome show. I mean, people loved it because it was like, you got to like groove a little bit, you got to dance a little bit, you got to laugh a little bit. It's kind of like a little bit of everything. There was also this other visual element going on, so it's like it was really, really cool. So yeah, I'm all for that. So we should collaborate. So you could do the music, and then I'll do the comedy.
There we go. Done deal. Gosh. Oh, have you seen Insecure? It's a TV show on
No,
HBO.
it's on my list to see. No, but it literally is. I have to watch it. Yes.
Insecure is fantastic
Okay.
because to me, this is why I think it's fantastic because it's again relatable. Like it's so down to earth and in it, it's just like you, the chick, she is starring in the show. She's the main character, but she also produced it or directed it.
Yeah.
So, and that's again, that makes it fantastic to me because it's somebody who did all of that. And that's
Yeah.
number one, that's very impressive.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you have to watch that show just because of like the way she put that together. And a lot of times she's talking to herself in the mirror, and that's something that I think is really cool because it's so weird, and she's just like hyping herself up like, yeah, go talk to him, you really want to talk, and she's just hyping herself up the whole time. But that's something that everybody does that we don't talk about. We don't tell our friends
Right.
we hyped ourselves up for 20 minutes in front of the mirror before we went out on a date with somebody. But she does it, and she's not
That's
ashamed to
funny.
do it. And she's showing other people, this is what I do.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, I have to watch it.
Being able to just be yourself and show the audience, like, this is who I am, or also just showing people, like, I know other people are like this, but other directors or producers are afraid to show afraid to show this
Right.
kind of stuff. That's
Right.
to me that's kind of groundbreaking as far as like we're talking about Seinfeld aspect. That
Yep.
to me that's a groundbreaking concept, and people who are willing to go those extra miles, like what's his name, Quentin Tarantino. Like the dude makes some of the weirdest movies and shows and stuff, but like that's what makes him special. Like you're
Right.
not gonna get anything close to Tarantino from somebody who's not Tarantino.
Right.
And it's that kind of quality that I think brings to the table of his value. We value him as a director because of how unique he is.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it's like, it's a great kind of thing because you end up being this at this level where you can recognize this person's work before, like, I'm sure that, if you had, usually Tarantino fans know all the works, but let's say they didn't, and you showed someone, you'd be like, hey, that's probably Tarantino, like it's kind of like they have that stamp on their piece, which is fabulous.
Yeah, I'll be watching something and I'll be like, this looks like like a trailer, and I'll be like,
Yeah.
this looks like
Yeah.
Tarantino made this. Or,
Yeah.
this is like so and so made this, and
Right.
as you say, it's that stamp.
Yeah.
That's something that even in music, like you can hear a song, and before you even hear the vocal, you'd be like, I bet so and so is on this song.
Yeah.
It sounds like the type of
Yeah.
song that they would do.
Yeah. And that's pretty amazing. It's really cool when it's at that level.
Yeah. So with all the other things that you do with, I guess, the putting together comedy and shows and stuff, is there something that you haven't done that you want to do?
Um, yeah, I want to do, I mean, I'm sure like there's, certain pieces or, projects that I maybe don't know of yet that I would love to do. Specific genres and things I don't know, but I would love to go bigger. Like going to like bigger audiences. I've never done like big 1,000 seater.
Mhm.
That would be awesome. Like I would love to do that. I've done big theaters. I've done almost 1,000, but like I've done I think like 600 or I think 600 was like my most. But I would love to do like a big seat, like a Broadway kind of thing. That would be awesome. Or one of those, like like a big show. That would be great. I think the vibe there is like, with an audience. Of course, this was completely stopped a couple of years ago with the pandemic and everything, and only, recently started to come back, to go back into in person. So it wasn't even possible recently. But yeah, I would love to do that.
So, how did you feel when you had your first big show to you? Did you feel just overwhelmed, or was it like, oh, yep, I'm prepared. This is it.
The big show, it's funny because it's like, what is a big show? The first show could be the big show, but it was maybe for 50 people. And then the next show was 100 people, but it wasn't as big of a show. It's each kind of situation presents itself as a big show. Sometimes, I've performed where I knew there were like, big producers in the audience or my family or, someone like, so a big show has a different meaning each time. But I love every show. And I've also performed, for one person once when like there were like a lot of people that didn't show up. Like I've had those kind of shows too. But it's like a big show could be for many different reasons, but it's yeah, the ones that I've done that was like a big audience. That is it's a different, yeah, it's a different vibe. It's cool. I mean, any audience, and sometimes I've had where the numbers were small. It was maybe, I don't know, 50, but they were such an energetic crowd. It was as if it was like, 200, 300 people, like, that you could get that too, which is wow. So it really depends, but every show has its own vibe.
Is that something that you really strive to do? Is to have that crowd interaction, like where there's just
Yeah.
so much going on?
Yeah. There it, when I'm performing, I feed off the audience a lot.
Uh-huh.
So whether it's their vibe, their energy, or sometimes I'm literally interacting with them in some shows. I have like, improvised pieces that I do. So I'm, and in theater for sure, you're relying on the audience. It's part of it. Even if you don't, even if you're not, with a dialogue with them, you're still, it's really important to have them there, because it's the completion of the whole thing. Like you have to have it. It's like that missing piece. And so it's very important for me to have, yeah, to have like a good audience is great because the energy is just, and if there are jokes, the jokes hit better and the jokes are, they flow better. Everything flows better. So, and then it makes for a better show. But yeah, it's, and that also is kind of, I guess, depended on the crowd. Because like I've done a show like the music show I was telling you about is a very energetic show by how it is because of the music and everything. And I remember one time we were performing and we had a full house, which is also always fun. We had a full house, but it just so happened that like all those people were it was very elderly crowd, and they were also very like serious um, kind of a closed off kind of thing. It was like I think I don't know where they were from, but it was a very like kind of um, I don't know, kind of introverted kind of a vibe. And the show starts and we're backstage in between the parts and we're like, God, nothing. We're not getting anything. They're like, nothing. They're just like politely clapping. They're hating it. They're hating it. Like we were sure they hated the show. And then the show ends and they're leaving. And I had like, it's like, I need eyes there. I need to like, give me some intel. And afterwards, people were saying, yeah, they were saying they loved it. It was a fabulous show. So like, you never know. It's like, each time it could be like, you never know who's in the crowd.
And I would assume that that could be extremely stressful to the
Yeah.
performance in
Yeah,
general.
yeah. During the show, you're just like, okay, maybe this time it'll, maybe this bit they'll like, and then you do the bit, like nothing. It's like, but and then maybe this bit, maybe this song. No, they're just clapping. They're just politely clapping. They're hating it. But no, it's like every, when you have a few of them in the crowd and the crowd is a majority energetic crowd, then you don't feel it. But if it's a majority of the same type of people, which just so happened that's how it was, it was kind of weird, but you get every kind of crowd.
So what do you do in the situation? Do you adapt to
You
make
just
sure that they're into it, or do you just
you just keep going. It's just harder though, because it's like, I can't really explain it. It's just, if you're doing, I mean, I can't really speak for the song performances because I don't sing and those parts that the singers are doing it, but I'm guessing it's just like, you're hitting a note, or for me, I was like, I would say a joke or whatever it is. And you just don't get that, you don't hear the laughs. Maybe there were some laughs, but they were so quiet, I couldn't hear them. So for me, it was like, oh my God, that wasn't funny, the joke didn't land. Maybe my delivery was bad. I don't know. You try again, another one, nothing. And it's like, oh my God, I don't hear anything. It's really, it's very stressful because you're like, I just did this in the other show and it was fine. Or, and this is what I do. What am I doing wrong? It's very strange, but it was very, it was a big relief to find out after that, from people that were we were like hounding the ushers at the end. We're like, what'd they say when they were leaving? But it was good to hear that that it was well accepted. It was just a different kind of crowd.
so are you pushing a certain show that you recently directed right now, or
Yeah, so my most recent show is actually a solo show. It's a comedy also, and it's the one that I'm kind of I'm working to really get out there some more, just because I think it's very important, and I see that it has a really good. It's really received well, has good reactions from the crowd. So I don't want to kind of drop it. I think that it hasn't maxed out its potential, and I really want, more people to see it. And obviously the pandemic kind of shut it down and I converted to like a virtual version, but now I've been trying to go back to in person as things are kind of getting better, I guess you could say. So yeah, that's the main thing I'm working on now. Yeah, just keep on working on that one and getting it out there to more people.
have you were talking about virtual stuff? Have you gotten to like the TikTok craze or anything like that?
You would think that I would get into the TikTok thing, that it would be easy for me, but the whole social media thing is actually very challenging for me because I'm like, and TikTok too. It's like I have to perfect it. I'm also a bit of a perfectionist. So creating like one little, TikTok for me could take forever because I just, nope, gotta do it again. It has to be, I gotta get it, I don't know if it'll be good. And I overthink it. So I have TikTok, but I'm not as active on it just because I gotta, I guess, get out of my own head with that. And it's a different genre in itself. But yeah, I like the concept. I think it's opened up a lot of opportunities for a lot of people to be a bit more creative. So yeah, it's something that I need to work on more for sure.
Yeah, I mean it could be such a great tool to get
Yeah.
yourself out there and and allow people to see your creative side.
Yeah.
Me personally, they say it's great for music, but I'm
Yeah.
not into it just because it's just not something I want to do. And I think that's important for people to understand like what you're good at and what you want to do. If you're not comfortable with it, people are going to tell, and
Right.
you're not going to
It'll
do that.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, like, I think, you have to kind of also look at it as different angles of using that platform. So, like, for you, that would be awesome to, like, maybe provide, sound for other creators.
Yeah.
Because that's like, that's also kind of the point there is like a lot of people get to kind of explore new sounds and hear new things just because they, saw it on TikTok and they're like, oh, I like that. I'm going to use that. Or, you offer someone, hey, why don't you use this? So I like that aspect of, social media, that connection. So yeah, gotta also look at it with a different lens.
Yeah. And, I've seen some people who have done really well on TikTok or Instagram and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I've seen some people who don't do comedy and have tried to do it. And my wife, she follows this guy. He's a bodybuilder, and Ulysses, that's his name. And he's known for being like one of the best physique people, like looks amazing. But he's been doing these funny videos on Instagram. And my wife is just like, he is trying this new thing and he's so bad at it. He's not funny. And it's him and his wife. And it's like, what are y'all doing? You know what I mean? Like, but some people are realizing that that stuff catches on. So they're going
Yeah.
to try it out to see what happens.
Right. Right. And it depends. I think, the main thing about TikTok for me is that it's very time consuming. I mean, it can become this huge time suck. Like if you're watching it, 2 hours could go by and, you won't even notice. And if you're creating on it, oh my gosh, like all day can go by just like, oh my gosh, I need to just post this thing. It's very consuming. And, the past few months for sure I've been busy with other things that I really haven't had the time to like get into it, so I really I need to, but yeah, that's another thing about getting the word out now is very challenging because the ways of doing that it's very it can snowball into other things. So yeah, you got to just like you said, do what you want to do to feel that you're comfortable with, because if you're not comfortable with it, it's going to show.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, let's wrap this up.
Sure.
What's some things that you are getting into, and then also make sure you give everybody like all your social or if you're not doing that, I guess let's
No,
make
I
it where
am, yeah.
where everybody can find the stuff that you are about to do and everything.
Yeah, so I'm now setting up my next in-person shows for my solo show. So hopefully I'll have all those dates available soon. Hopefully during the summer I'll have some dates available. So that is going to be seen on my, I guess the easiest way to find me online would be through my website, which is www.meiravzur.com, which is MEIRAVZUR.com. And on social media, I'm more active on the social media that I created for my recent show, which is called Inconceivable Show in one word. And that's like, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all that. And I'm active a lot on Instagram. You can see parts of my show there. You can see little other silly things that I put on there. And I'm also very responsive. So whoever wants to reach out and say hi, I'm open to connect with people and see meet new people, which is like one of the biggest things that I've noticed through what I do is the opportunity to meet all these people that I've never would have been able to meet. So it's very cool. Like you. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, all right. Thank you so much for coming on, and I hope the best for all your endeavors that you plan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to hearing more about your album once it's ready.
Awesome. I'll definitely let you know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.